The space station floated in the darkness between two star systems. It was called Epsilon 7, and it was a place where aliens from many different worlds came to trade goods and make deals. The station was old and large, with thousands of corridors and rooms spread across dozens of levels. Security cameras watched everything. Drones flew through the halls to keep peace. It was supposed to be safe for everyone. Among the thousands of beings who lived and worked on the station, there was a young human woman named Yuna. She was 23 years old, with black hair that she kept tied back and dark eyes that noticed everything around her. She worked as a translator for the Galactic Trade Commission, helping different species understand each other during business meetings. It was not an exciting job, but it paid well enough, and it let her see parts of the galaxy that most humans would never visit. Yuna was one of only 12 humans on the entire station. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years, which made them very young compared to most other species. Many aliens looked down on humans. They thought humans were primitive and weak. They had no claws, no fangs, no armored skin. They were small and soft and broke easily. Some aliens refused to even speak to humans directly. Yuna had learned to ignore the rude looks and the whispered insults. She did her job well, and that was what mattered. On this particular day, her supervisor sent her to Sector 14. It was an old part of the station, mostly used for storage and maintenance. The corridors there were narrow and poorly lit. Not many people went there unless they had to. Yuna's task was simple. Two merchant groups were arguing about some missing cargo, and she needed to check the inventory records to help solve the dispute. It should have taken less than an hour. She walked through the quiet hallways, her footsteps echoing on the metal floor. The air smelled stale, like it had not been properly cleaned in a long time. Pipes ran along the ceiling, and some of them dripped water onto the ground. Yuna wrinkled her nose but kept walking. The sooner she finished, the sooner she could leave this unpleasant place. She did not notice the three large figures following her. The Vorath were a reptilian species known throughout the galaxy for their strength and their bad tempers. They stood over 2 meters tall, with thick scaled skin that ranged from dark green to brown. Their eyes were yellow with vertical pupils, like snakes. Their hands ended in sharp claws that could tear through metal. Most other species tried to avoid making them angry. These three Vorath had been watching Yuna for several days. They had a grudge against humans. A human trading company had taken a contract that the Vorath wanted, costing them a lot of money. They wanted revenge, but they were not stupid enough to attack a human where cameras could see them. So they had paid a station technician to disable the security systems in Sector 14 at a specific time. That time was now. The lights in the corridor flickered and then changed to dim red. The emergency lighting. Yuna stopped walking and looked around, suddenly alert. Something felt wrong. The normal hum of the surveillance drones had gone silent. The small green lights on the cameras had turned off. She heard heavy footsteps behind her. Yuna turned around slowly. Her heart began to beat faster when she saw the three Vorath standing in the corridor. They blocked the way she had come. Their yellow eyes stared at her with a hunger that made her skin crawl. One of them, the largest of the three, smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It showed too many teeth. "No cameras now, little human," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "No security drones. No patrol for another hour. No one to help you." Yuna took a step backward. Her back touched the cold metal wall. She looked quickly to her left and right, but there was nowhere to go. The corridor ended in a dead end, just a few meters behind her. She had walked right into a trap without knowing it. Her communication device was not with her. She had left it at her workstation, thinking this would be a quick trip. Stupid. So stupid. "What do you want?" she asked, She was proud that her voice did not shake, even though fear was spreading through her body like ice water. "Your kind stole something from us," the second Varth said. He was slightly smaller than the leader, with darker scales and a scar across his snout. "A contract worth 3 shipments of rare minerals. Someone has to pay for that." "I am just a translator," Una said. "I had nothing to do with any contract." The third Vorth laughed. It was an ugly sound. "We do not care. You are human. That is enough." They moved closer. Each step they took made the floor vibrate slightly. Una could smell them now, a sharp scent like old meat and sulfur. Her mind raced, trying to think of a way out. She could try to run, but they were faster. She could try to fight, but they were so much bigger and stronger. She could scream, but there was no one to hear her. The leader reached out with one clawed hand. "This will be fun," he said. "I have always wanted to know how easily humans break." Una pressed herself against the wall. Her hands were shaking. Her breath came in short, quick gasps. This was real. This was actually happening. She was going to die here, in this forgotten corner of a space station, far from home, far from anyone who loved her. Or maybe not. Something changed in Una's eyes. The fear was still there, but something else rose up alongside it. Something harder. Something that her grandmother had seen in her when she was just a little girl. Something that her old teacher had trained her to use. Una was afraid. But she was also angry. And beneath both of those feelings was something deeper. Something that all humans carried in their blood. Passed down from ancestors who had survived ice ages and famines and predators, with nothing but sharp sticks and stubborn will. The Vorth saw a small, soft, helpless prey animal. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The 3 Vorth were confident. They had every reason to be. They were predators from a world where only the strong survived. They had hunted dangerous creatures across a dozen different planets. They had fought in wars and killed enemies with their bare claws. Between the 3 of them, they had over 60 years of combat experience, and standing before them was a single, human female, small, alone, unarmed. Every species in the known galaxy agreed on one thing about humans. They were physically weak. They had no natural weapons. Their skin was thin and tore easily. Their bones were fragile compared to most other intelligent species. In a fair fight between a human and almost any other alien, the human would lose. Everyone knew this. It was simple fact. What the Vorth did not know was that Una had never lived a soft life. She grew up in Bizn, a coastal city on Earth, in a neighborhood that was not kind to children. Her father had left before she was born. Her mother worked 2 jobs and was rarely home. The other kids in the area were rough, and they did not like the quiet girl, who preferred books to games. Una learned very young that the world would not protect her. She had to protect herself. Her grandmother was a tough old woman named Bongcha. She had survived a war, raised 4 children alone, and buried 2 husbands. When she saw the bruises on young Una's arms, she did not cry or complain to anyone. Instead, she took Una to a small gym run by a retired soldier named Taesu. Taesu was not a kind man, but he was an honest one. He looked at the skinny little girl and shook his head. "She is small," he told Bongsha. "She will always be small. I cannot change that." "Then, teach her to win anyway," Bongsha said. And so he did. For 12 years, Una trained under Taesu. Not the pretty martial arts that people did for exercise or sport. The ugly kind. The practical kind. The kind that soldiers used when their weapons were gone and death was standing in front of them. Taesu taught her where to hit, where bodies were weak, how to use an enemy's size against them, how to keep fighting when every part of her body screamed to give up. "Pain is just information," Tesu would say. It tells you something is damaged. It does not tell you to stop. You decide when to stop. Not your body. You. The Vorath did not know any of this. They did not know about the countless hours Yuna had spent learning to fall, to roll, to strike, to endure. They did not know that she had broken her hand twice, her nose once, and cracked 3 ribs during training. They did not know that she had kept getting up every single time. They also did not understand human biology. Humans had evolved on a planet that was, by galactic standards, extremely dangerous. The gravity was heavy. The weather was unpredictable and often deadly. The other animals were fast and strong and hungry. Diseases spread through the air and water. Even the plants could kill Dot to survive on such a world. Humans had developed something called the adrenaline response. When a human was in danger, their body would release powerful chemicals into their blood. Their heart would beat faster. Their muscles would become stronger. Their reaction time would improve. Their ability to feel pain would decrease. It was not magic. It was biology. Evolution had given humans a temporary boost that could mean the difference between life and death. The Vorath knew none of this. Their own species did not have such a response. When they were injured, they felt it fully. When they were tired, their bodies slowed down. The idea that a creature could push past its normal limits through sheer chemical willpower was foreign to them. There was one more thing the Vorath did not understand. Humans were not just survivors. They were hunters. Long ago, before humans had built cities or invented writing, they had hunted animals much larger and faster than themselves. They did not chase their prey down in a quick sprint. Instead, they followed it for hours, sometimes days, never stopping, never resting, until the animal simply collapsed from exhaustion. Humans called this persistence hunting. It was how their ancestors had fed their families on the ancient plains of Africa. This hunting style had shaped everything about the human body and mind. Humans could run longer than almost any other creature. They could endure more pain. They could keep going when logic said they should fall down and die. It was not about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about being the one who refused to quit. The leader of the Vorath stepped forward, reaching for Yuna with one massive clawed hand. He moved casually, without hurry. To him, this was already over. The human would scream and beg and break, just like every other weak creature he had ever hunted. He was thinking about where to grab her when Yuna moved. She did not move like prey. She moved like something that had decided it was time to fight back. The leader's clawed hand cut through the air where Yuna's head had been a moment before. But she was no longer there. She had dropped low, bending her knees and twisting her body to the side with a speed that surprised all 3 Vorath. Yuna did not think. Thinking was too slow. Her body moved on instinct, following patterns that 12 years of training had carved into her muscles and bones. Her right elbow drove upward, striking the soft spot beneath the Vorath's arm where the scales were thin and the nerves clustered together. She had studied alien anatomy during her translator training. She knew where their weak points were. The leader let out a sound that was half roar and half scream. Pain shot through his arm like fire. He stumbled backward, his yellow eyes wide with shock. No prey had ever hurt him before. No prey had ever even tried. The second Vorath, the one with the scar, rushed forward with his claws raised. He was angry now. How dare this tiny creature fight back? But the corridor was narrow, only about 2 meters wide. The Vorath were large, and they could not all attack at once. They had to come at her one at a time. Yuna had noticed this the moment she saw the dead end. It was her only advantage, and she intended to use it. She grabbed a metal pipe that hung loose from the ceiling. Maintenance areas always had broken equipment. As the scarred Vorath charged, She swung the pipe with all her strength. It connected with his knee, right at the joint where the scales did not overlap properly. The sound was terrible, like a branch snapping in a storm. The Varth's leg bent in a direction it was not supposed to go. He crashed to the ground, screaming, his body blocking his companions from reaching her. "Kill her," the leader shouted. Blood was dripping from under his arm where Yuna had struck him. His face was twisted with rage and disbelief. The third Varth shoved his fallen companion aside and came at Yuna. He was more careful than the others had been. He kept his arms up to protect his face and moved his feet slowly, watching for her next attack. Yuna's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her breath came in quick gasps. The adrenaline was burning through her body like fire, making everything sharp and clear. She could feel her muscles trembling with energy, but she knew this would not last. Adrenaline was powerful, but it had limits. She had maybe a few more minutes before her body started to crash. She had to end this quickly. The third Varth lunged. Yuna threw the pipe at his face, not expecting to hurt him, just wanting to distract him for half a second. He batted the pipe away with one arm, exactly as she had hoped in that moment when his vision was blocked. Yuna moved. She dropped to the ground and drove her heel into his ankle. The joint was strong, but she hit it at an angle, and the Varth stumbled. Before he could recover, she was behind him, jumping onto his back, wrapping her arm around his thick neck. The Varth roared and tried to shake her off. He spun around, slamming backward into the wall. Yuna's back hit the metal with a sickening crunch. Pain exploded through her ribs. Something had broken. Maybe several somethings. She did not let go. Taesu's voice echoed in her memory. Pain is just information. You decide when to stop. The Varth slammed her into the wall again. Her vision went white. She felt something wet running down her face. Blood from a cut on her forehead. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Her arm was going numb. She did not let go. The Varth stumbled forward, trying to reach back and grab her, but his arms could not bend that way. He was panicking now, his movements becoming wild and uncoordinated. He needed oxygen, and she was cutting off his supply. He slammed her into the wall a third time. This time, something in her wrist cracked. The pain was so intense that her vision went dark for a moment. She did not let go. The Varth's movements became slower. His arms dropped to his sides. His legs wobbled. Then, finally, he collapsed to his knees and fell forward onto his face. Yuna let go and rolled off his back. She lay on the cold metal floor, staring up at the dim red emergency lights. Her entire body was a symphony of pain. Every breath felt like someone was stabbing her in the chest. Her wrist hung at a strange angle. Blood dripped into her eye from the cut on her head, but she was alive. The leader was still standing, clutching his injured arm, staring at her with an expression she had never seen on a Varth face before. Fear. What are you? He whispered. Yuna pushed herself up onto her knees. It took everything she had. The world spun around her, and she had to fight to stay conscious. I am human, she said. Her voice was hoarse and weak, but steady. And you made a mistake. The leader turned and ran. Yuna did not chase him. She could not have even if she wanted to. Instead, she crawled to the wall and sat with her back against it, wrapping her good arm around her broken ribs. The two Varth on the ground were not moving. One was unconscious. The other was still alive, whimpering and clutching his shattered knee. She sat there in the dim, red light and waited for help to come. It took 20 more minutes. The security patrol arrived to find a scene that none of them would ever forget. The patrol was led by a tall insectoid officer named Vex, who had worked on Epsilon 7 for 15 years. He had seen many things in that time. fights between drunk traders, smuggling operations gone wrong, even a few murders. But he had never seen anything like this. 3 Vorath warriors lay on the ground. One was unconscious, with bruises forming on his throat. One was curled up in a ball, holding a knee that bent in the wrong direction, making sounds of pain. The third was sitting against the wall with his hands over his face, repeating the same words over and over in his own language. The translator in Vex's ear told him the Vorath was saying, "It was not possible. It was not possible." And in the middle of this scene sat a small human female. Blood covered half her face. Her right arm hung limp at her side. She was breathing in short, shallow gasps that suggested broken ribs. But she was conscious. She was aware. And when she looked up at Vex, her eyes were calm. "They attacked me," she said simply. "I defended myself." The investigation began immediately. Station security examined the scene, interviewed witnesses, and pulled maintenance records. Within hours, they had the full picture. A human technician named G.I. Tay had accepted a bribe to disable the surveillance systems in Sector 14. He had not known exactly what the Vorath planned to do, but he had suspected it was nothing good. He had done it anyway for the money. When security arrested him, he broke down and confessed everything. The 3 Vorath were taken to the medical bay under guard. Their injuries were treated, but they were not allowed to leave. They faced serious charges for assault and attempted murder. The leader who had fled the scene was found hiding in a cargo hold 2 levels down. He did not resist arrest. He seemed broken somehow, as if something inside him had shattered. Una was also taken to the medical bay. The doctors there were mostly familiar with alien biology, but they did their best. They set her broken wrist and wrapped her ribs and closed the cut on her forehead. A human doctor was called in from another part of the station to make sure nothing was missed. 3 broken ribs, the human doctor said, looking at the scan results. A fractured wrist. A mild concussion. Multiple bruises and cuts. She looked at Una with amazement in her eyes. "You should be dead. Those Vorath could have torn you apart." "They tried," Una said quietly. "How did you survive?" Una did not answer for a long moment. She was thinking about her grandmother, who had taught her that the world would not protect her. She was thinking about Tae-Su, who had taught her that pain was just information. She was thinking about all the time she had wanted to give up, and all the time she had kept going anyway. "I did not have a choice," she finally said. "So I found a way." The news spread through the station like fire through dry grass. Everyone was talking about it. The human female who had fought 3 Vorath and won. At first, many aliens did not believe it. It had to be an exaggeration. It had to be a mistake. Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. One human could not possibly defeat 3 Vorath in hand-to-hand combat. But the evidence was clear. The medical records. The security footage from just before and after the systems went down. The testimony of the Vorath themselves, who were too traumatized to lie. A single human female, armed with nothing but a loose pipe, had put 3 Vorath warriors on the ground while suffering injuries that should have incapacitated her. And she had not given up. She had kept fighting until she won. The story spread beyond the station. It was shared on communication networks and trading posts throughout the sector. It reached other star systems. It reached the homeworlds of a dozen different species. Many aliens were forced to reconsider what they thought they knew about humans. The Galactic Council took notice as well. Humanity had been petitioning for years to be upgraded from a minor species to a recognized species with full diplomatic rights. The Council had always refused, citing humanity's physical limitations and their short history of space travel. But now there were questions. If one human female could do this, what else could humans do? What had the Council missed in their assessment? 2 weeks after the incident, while Yuna was still recovering in the medical bay, she received an official message from Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood. The Council had agreed to hear a new petition for humanity's upgraded status, and they wanted her to speak at the hearing. Why me? She asked the ambassador over the communication link. I am just a translator. I am not a politician or a soldier. The ambassador, a middle-aged man named Hojin, smiled at her through the screen. That is exactly why they want you, he said. You are proof. Living proof that humanity is more than what they think we are. Your story will speak louder than any speech I could give. Yuna looked down at her bandaged wrist and touched her still healing ribs. She thought about what she had done in that dark corridor. She had not felt brave at the time. She had felt terrified. She had fought because the only other option was to die. I will do it, she said. The ambassador nodded. The hearing is in 3 months. That should give you enough time to heal. He paused. Yuna, I want you to understand something. What you did matters. Not just for yourself. For all of us. For every human who has ever been looked down on or dismissed by the aliens who think they are better than us. You showed them they were wrong. After the call ended, Yuna lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. 3 months. 3 months to prepare for the most important speech of her life. 3 months to figure out how to explain to a room full of aliens what it meant to be human. She closed her eyes and began to plan. The Galactic Assembly Chamber was the largest enclosed space Yuna had ever seen. It was a massive dome that could hold over 10,000 beings, with seats arranged in rising circles around a central platform. Representatives from hundreds of different species filled those seats, their bodies and faces as varied as the stars in the sky. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no faces at all, just clusters of sensory organs. The noise of their voices blended together into a constant hum that reminded Yuna of a beehive. She stood at the edge of the central platform, waiting for her turn to speak. Her ribs still ached a little when she breathed deeply, but the doctors had cleared her for travel. Her wrist had healed cleanly. The scar on her forehead was still visible, a thin line of lighter skin that she had decided not to have removed. She wanted to remember Ambassador Hojin had briefed her on what to expect. There would be questions. Some delegates would be hostile. Others would be curious. A few might even be sympathetic. Her job was to make them understand what humans truly were, not the weak creatures they imagined, but something more. The speaker before her finished, and the assembly moderator called her name. Yuna walked to the center of the platform. The lights above were bright, making it hard to see the faces in the audience. But she could feel them watching her. Thousands of alien eyes, all focused on one small human. She took a breath and began. 3 months ago, I was attacked by 3 Varath warriors in a maintenance corridor on station Epsilon 7. The security systems had been disabled. There was no one to help me, no one to witness. The Varath were confident they would kill me without anyone ever knowing. A voice echoed through the vast chamber. Translation devices carried her words to every delegate in their own language. They were wrong. She let that statement hang in the air for a moment before continuing. I am not a soldier. I have never served in any military. I have no special training beyond the self-defense classes I took as a child. By human standards, I am completely ordinary. And yet I put 3 Varath warriors on the ground while suffering 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and a concussion. A murmur ran through the assembly. Yuna could see some delegates leaning forward, suddenly interested. I stand before you today to ask a simple question. How did this happen? How did an ordinary, untrained human female defeat 3 members of one of the most physically powerful species in the galaxy? She paused, looking around the chamber. The answer is that you have misunderstood what humans are. She began to walk slowly around the platform as she spoke, making eye contact with different sections of the audience. Your scientists have studied us. They have measured our muscles and found them weak. They have measured our bones and found them fragile. They have noted that we have no claws, no fangs, no armored skin. Based on these measurements, you classified us as a minor species, physically inferior, not worth taking seriously. She stopped and faced the section where the Varth delegation sat. She could see them shifting uncomfortably in their seats. But you measured the wrong things. You measured our strength at rest. You did not measure what happens when we release adrenaline into our blood. You did not measure how much pain we can ignore when survival is at stake. You did not measure how long we can keep fighting after our bodies tell us to stop. She turned to address the whole assembly again. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Our weather could freeze us or burn us or drown us. Our animals could tear us apart. Our diseases could destroy entire populations. Even our plants could poison us. By the standards of the galaxy, Earth is a death world. And we did not just survive there. We conquered it. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. We did not conquer Earth because we were the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. We conquered it because we never stopped. We never gave up. When a predator killed one of us, we hunted it until it was dead. When the cold threatened our tribes, we built fire and clothing and shelter. When disease struck our villages, we studied it until we understood it, and then we destroyed it. She pointed to the scar on her forehead. The Varth broke 3 of my ribs. They cracked my wrist. They gave me a concussion and cut my face. And I did not stop. I could not stop. It is not a choice for humans. It is what we are. We are the species that keeps going. We are the species that gets back up. We are the species that refuses to accept defeat. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the constant background hum of conversation had stopped. Let me tell you what your scientists missed. 10,000 years ago, my ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size. They did not do it with claws or fangs. They did it by chasing those animals for days without rest, following the tracks through heat and cold, never stopping until the prey simply collapsed from exhaustion. This is called persistence hunting. It is how we became the dominant species on our world. She looked at the Varth delegation again. Your warriors are stronger than me, faster than me, better armed. But they got tired. They got scared. They expected me to break, and when I did not, they did not know what to do. Because you cannot beat something that refuses to quit. You can hurt it. You can damage it. But you cannot make it stop. She walked back to the center of the platform. Humanity is asking for recognition as a full species in this assembly. We are not asking because we want power or territory. We are asking because we deserve to be seen for what we truly are. Not weak, not inferior, different. We are survivors in the truest sense of the word. And we have only just begun to show what we can do. She took a final breath. I am not exceptional. By human standards, I am average. The things I did on that station, any human could have done. Our soldiers trained for years to become even more effective. Our athletes push their bodies far beyond anything I am capable of. Our scientists and engineers and artists create wonders that even we do not fully understand. She looked around the chamber one last time. You looked at us and saw prey. You were wrong. We were never prey. We were always hunters. And now we are among you in the stars. The question is not whether you will recognize us. The question is what kind of relationship you want to have with us. Because we are not going anywhere. We never do. She bowed her head slightly. Thank you for listening. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then, from somewhere in the upper seats, a single delegate began to tap their appendages against their chair in the gesture of approval. Another joined. Then another. The sound grew and spread until it filled the entire chamber. Thousands of aliens acknowledging that they had heard something important. 2 hours later, the vote was held. The result was not even close. Humanity was recognized as a full species in the Galactic Assembly, and across the galaxy, aliens began to look at the small, soft, fragile humans with new eyes. Not with pity or contempt, with respect, and perhaps just a little with fear.